You wake up. Before your eyes are even fully open, you run your tongue along the roof of your mouth and feel it. That roughness, that sandpaper sensation, like dry paper, as if someone had spent the whole night sucking every drop of moisture out of your mouth while you slept. You try to swallow and it feels like your throat is sticking to itself. You get up, walk to the kitchen, take that first sip of water, and somehow something still doesn't go back to normal. Think about that. How many mornings of your life have started exactly like this? Most people who live with this every single day believe it's just thirst that built up overnight. They figure all they need to do is drink more water before bed, and the problem disappears. But the answer to that question, the real reason your mouth wakes up like a desert, is something that has completely changed the way I treat my patients over the last several years. I'm a physician with nearly 20 years of clinical experience, and morning dry mouth is on my list of the most underrated complaints I see in the office. People come in talking about high blood pressure, cholesterol, back pain. Almost no one walks in saying, "Doctor, I wake up with a dry mouth every day." And yet, this quiet symptom may be telling you about one of the most common and most overlooked conditions in the human body. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal the central substance behind this recurring dry mouth, how it acts inside your body while you sleep, and what you can start doing this very week to change it. First, let me introduce you to Mrs. Carolyn, 56 years old, a beloved home cook, born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina. Mother of 4, grandmother of 7, a woman of faith, short patience, and a big heart. She came into my office on a Tuesday afternoon with one of the more unusual complaints I had heard that week. She looked at me, in that direct way of someone who has been cooking since she was 10 years old, and said, "Doctor, I think something's wrong with me, because I wake up with my mouth so dry my tongue actually sticks to the roof of my mouth. I drank a whole bottle of water before bed and it didn't help at all." She was embarrassed to bring it up. She thought it was silly. She thought it was just her age. But I looked at her history, looked at the lab she had done 3 months earlier, and something caught my attention. I'll come back to Mrs. Carolyn's story in a moment. Hold on to that name. I need to be honest with you. The title of this video says your body is trying to warn you, and that is true. But I have to tell you clearly, morning dry mouth is not a disease in itself. It is a signal, and like every signal, it can be pointing in several different directions. It can be something simple to fix. It can be something serious that needs urgent attention. My commitment to you here is medical truth, not sensationalism. So anytime you notice a persistent change in your body, talk to your trusted physician. That's a principle that never changes in my practice. Now, let's talk about what is actually happening inside you while you sleep. And here is the point that almost no one talks about. Chronic morning dry mouth, in a huge portion of the cases I see in clinic, has one central cause. One silent substance that acts on your body while you rest. That substance is glucose. More specifically, excess glucose circulating in your blood during the night. I know it sounds dramatic, but let me show you. When the sugar level in the blood rises above what the body can manage, the kidneys go into emergency mode. Think of the kidneys as a giant, highly efficient coffee filter that works 24 hours a day, separating what should stay in the body from what should be eliminated. When there is too much sugar circulating, this filter tries to dump the excess glucose out through the urine. But glucose does not leave alone. It drags water with it. In plain English, your body loses more fluid than normal during the night. You wake up dehydrated on the inside, even though you drank water before going to bed. And that is exactly what creates persistent morning dry mouth. Notice this detail. It's not just a random lack of saliva. It's a pattern. Every night, every morning, the same scene. Dry mouth, sometimes paired with a strong urge to urinate in the middle of the night, sometimes with a tiredness that lingers even after 8 hours of sleep. This concerns me deeply in my practice, because data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that more than 37 million Americans live with diabetes, and roughly 1 in 5 of them does not know they have it. Almost 1 in 5. Think about that. Millions of people walking around, waking up with dry mouth, excessive thirst, frequent bathroom trips, and chalking it up to the weather, stress, or the busy pace of life. And while no one is paying attention, glucose quietly damages the inner highways of the body, the arteries, the tiny vessels in the eyes, the nerves in the legs. But before we go on, I need to ask you something. If this information is making sense to you, if you are learning something new right now, tap the like button. That simple gesture helps this video reach more people who live with this symptom and have no idea what it means. And tell me in the comments which city you are watching from. I love seeing where this community is growing. Now let me walk you through how all of this works inside the body. calmly, without rushing. The pancreas is a small factory that sits right behind the stomach. The main job of this factory is to produce a substance called insulin. Insulin works like a key. When you eat, especially foods that quickly turn into sugar in the blood, glucose enters your bloodstream like a crowd of people trying to get into a house. Insulin is the key that opens the door of your cells for those people to come in. Without that key, or with the key working poorly, glucose stays outside, wandering through your internal highways, piling up, causing damage. And here's the point. During the night, even without eating anything, your liver keeps releasing a controlled amount of glucose to keep your brain running. In a healthy person, insulin adjusts all of this smoothly. In a person with insulin resistance or early-stage diabetes, that adjustment fails. Glucose rises during the overnight hours. The kidneys kick in, urine output goes up, water leaves the body, and your mouth wakes up like a desert. Have you ever stopped to think about that? Remember Mrs. Carolyn? When I ran her labs, her fasting glucose came back at 128 milligrams per deciliter. Her A1C, which is the average blood sugar over the last 3 months, was at 6.9%. In plain terms, she had already crossed the line. She had type 2 diabetes, discovered because her dry mouth made me order the right tests. She cried. Not out of fear, out of anger that no one had warned her sooner. "Doctor, I've had these symptoms for almost 2 years. I thought it was just menopause." That is the sentence I hear most often in my office. And it is the one that hurts me most as a physician. It's not when a patient comes in with a serious diagnosis. It's when they tell me they felt the symptoms for years and assumed it was normal. That assumption that something is normal kills silently. A study published in Diabetes Care, conducted by researchers from the Harvard School of Public Health, followed more than 200,000 health professionals over several decades. The findings were striking. Persistent dry mouth, excessive thirst, and frequent urination formed a triangle of symptoms that preceded a diabetes diagnosis by up to 5 years before glucose levels showed up clearly in routine blood work. 5 years of warning. 5 years that the body screamed and no one listened. That is the point that changes everything. So what do you actually do, in practice, to slow down or reverse this process, especially if you are still in the early stage? Let me give you concrete steps, the kind you can start applying this week. The first change is simple but powerful. Start your day with a large glass of room temperature water before any food. Your body spent hours losing fluid overnight. That water is the first reset of the filter. It's like opening the floodgates of a dam that had been holding too much pressure. You rehydrate the cells, help the kidneys start fresh, and give the brain the most basic fuel it needs. The second change is where most people slip up badly. Breakfast. Forget the white toast with jelly, the orange juice from a carton, the slice of coffee cake. Those combinations are a glucose bomb that makes the pancreas work double time first thing in the morning. Include protein and good fat, a boiled egg, a slice of cheese, a small handful of nuts. Think of it this way. Protein is the brake that keeps sugar from rushing into the bloodstream all at once. And the numbers here are impressive. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that people who replaced a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast with a combination of protein and healthy fat saw an average reduction of 23% in post-meal glucose spikes in just 4 weeks. 23%. No medication, just a swap on the plate. The third change is replacing fruit juice with whole fruit. Picture an orange. It has about 9 grams of natural sugar and almost 3 grams of fiber. Now picture a glass of store-bought juice. It can carry 30 grams of sugar and 0 fiber. The difference is brutal. The fiber in whole fruit is the traffic controller that keeps sugar from flooding the bloodstream all at once. Without it, the pancreas turns into a factory in full panic. The fourth change is one of the most underrated. A 15-minute walk after your main meals. It doesn't have to be the gym. It doesn't have to be running. You don't need expensive sneakers. 15 minutes of walking. Why? Because the muscles in your legs, when they contract, pull glucose directly from the blood without needing insulin. It's a metabolic shortcut that nature gave us for free. Another story I have to tell you. Mr. Walter, 62 years old, a retired carpenter from Birmingham, Alabama, came in complaining of fatigue and dry mouth for almost 3 years. Drank coffee with 3 sugars 3 times a day. Loved white bread with sweetened condensed milk. When I showed him his fasting glucose of 152, he laughed nervously. "Doctor, I've always eaten like this. My daddy ate like this and lived to be 92. I looked at him calmly and said, "What didn't kill your father at 92 is exactly what's making you sick at 62. The context is different. The stress is different. The lack of movement is different. He agreed to try. He swapped the sugar in his coffee for cinnamon. He replaced the sweetened spreads with cheese. He started walking with his wife twice a day. 3 months later, he came back with an A1C of 5.8. Morning dry mouth gone. Energy back. He told me, "Doctor, something shifted on the inside. I wake up now and my mouth feels normal. I didn't even know my mouth could feel normal." Powerful allies to add to this transformation. Cinnamon, which studies from the U.S. Department of Agriculture have shown can have a modest but real effect on insulin sensitivity, especially in cases of prediabetes. Apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon diluted in water before meals, which according to research published in the Journal of Diabetes Research, may reduce post-meal glucose spikes by up to 30%. And magnesium, a mineral involved in more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, which many people with insulin resistance turn out to be low on. Dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and Brazil nuts are accessible sources. But I need to alert you about something important. 7 days do not reverse years of buildup. The first signs of improvement do appear in a week, in the less dry mouth, in the energy that returns, in the clearer head. But the real reversal of this process requires consistency for at least 3 to 6 months. And if you already have a diabetes diagnosis, none of these changes replace medical follow-up or the medication your physician has prescribed. They do not replace. And what hurts me most in my daily practice isn't the patient who comes in with the diagnosis already confirmed. It's the huge group of people sitting right on the edge, living with dry mouth every day, with chronic fatigue, with sugar cravings that never quit, and who have never had a simple glucose test ordered. A basic blood test, which costs little, takes 10 minutes, and which can change the destiny of an entire family. Let's recap what we learned today. Persistent morning dry mouth is a signal. In many cases, it's the silent warning that glucose is running uncontrolled at night, and the kidneys are losing water trying to filter the excess. The central cause, most of the time, is insulin resistance or early-stage diabetes. The practical solutions start today. Water upon waking, protein at breakfast, whole fruit instead of juice, a 15-minute walk after meals, and allies like cinnamon, apple cider vinegar, and magnesium. And one simple request: ask for a fasting glucose and an A1C at your next checkup. It costs almost nothing, and it can save your life. Your body is not your enemy. It is constantly trying to balance itself, heal itself, adapt. The dry mouth that wakes you up every day is a cry for help. When glucose rises, when fatigue lingers, when thirst doesn't ease, those are signals. They are letters the body writes in a language few people learn to read. Send this video right now to that family member who always complains about waking up with a dry mouth, to that friend who drinks water all night and still wakes up thirsty, to that brother or sister who says it's just their age when you know it isn't. That simple gesture might start a conversation that changes someone's life. In the next video, I'm going to reveal the 5 signs your hands give before any lab test detects a glucose problem. Signs that show up in the skin, in the nails, in the sensitivity of the fingertips, and that most people ignore for years without knowing what they mean. You won't want to miss it. Take care of your mouth. It is the first window your body opens every morning, and it is always trying to tell you how you are doing on the inside.